Toronto, this is Beijing calling. Because I didn't come here because there was economic explosion and all that kind of stuff. I came here because I felt, this is cutting a long story short. I felt like a foreigner everywhere else because of my appearance. So I've lived mostly in Australia, and I even had Banff for 3 months and Paris for 6 months. I lived in California for a couple of years, and as a kid, I was born in Holland and grew up in Australia. But before that, 3 years in Singapore and 3 years in Indonesia. So I'm pretty much. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who feel the same way. First of all, living out of a suitcase as a kid, but now I happen to travel a lot too. Because suddenly, I guess I was kind of hung up about not fitting in, and especially in early days in Australia when there was still a kind of what they call a white Australia policy. So people that weren't Caucasian weren't really treated as equals or first-rank human beings, whatever like that. So, and I think for a long time that stuck with me. It actually it was lingering, and no matter how hard I tried to, initially, I think as a teenager, I think the word is assimilate, try and fit in, try and be like everybody else. This cloud was still all the time hanging over me. And the decision to go to China, just initially for an artisan residency, because I didn't speak any Mandarin, I had to learn from scratch. It was a good way for me because China to a Westerner, and I consider in this context that I am a Westerner, China looks very different. It thinks differently. It comes from a different past. The philosophy, the culture, the tradition is very deep and long, has a long history, and not easily digestible, not easily understood. Often admired for whatever reason, but not always understood. And I think contemporary China is even more complicated because some of that history and customs and culture is still embedded. But now, of course, we've got Western influence, we have globalization, we have urbanization, we have all kinds of, latent industrialization, latent postmodernism, everything else coming sort of, in a sense, out of kilter, So it hasn't followed the same natural curve, if you like, that the West have had over centuries, over decades at least.